Let's dance.
Howdy, howdy.
Hi.
And welcome to But It Was Aliens, the extraterrestrial comedy podcast where we probe paranormal events to determine whether they were para or normal for the questionable benefit of humanity. We take it in turns to host. My name is Kev and I'm hosting today. Alongside me with no idea as to what is coming up is my moonwalking amigo, Mr. Granville Moonwalker. Today we are off to France.
Ah, bonjour.
Only in the past, it wasn't France, it was Germany.
What?
Only in the past, it wasn't Germany, it was France. Only in the past, it wasn't France, for in 1518, it was technically the Holy Roman Empire.
Jesus Christ.
France and Germany have been through some interesting swaps down the years.
Indeed.
Let me take you back to the market town of Strasbourg, Alsace, which, just to clarify, is today on the French border to Germany. You know the deal with market towns, bustling, lively places full of business, full of food, full of activity. These were the places to be, and Strasbourg was both a wealthy city and a centre of trade exchange. People came from all over to buy and sell goods within the safety of the town. I'm showing Mr. Moonwalker here a photo of the town as I continue.
Looks very bustling.
Big,
I was going to say
big and bustling.
some nice blue roofs, some red roofs. I like the colour blue and red. Do you reckon they had any meaning as to what type of building it was?
No, just whatever material was available.
But
yeah.
they're not painted?
Bustling place. Big cathedral or temple, city walls, guilds and guild masters, Hylians selling small children their first shield and strange medicines, others enticing you to guess which chest the rupee is in, getting you hooked on gambling before you've decapitated your first Stalfos. On the note of the cathedral, for a period, Strasbourg Cathedral was the tallest building in the world. So July, some say the 14th, in 1518, the market town was thriving, but one female wasn't there to trade.
Was that Zelda? I mean, we're on another Zelda tirade here, aren't we?
Coincidentally, I wrote this one, it probably would have been late 2022. It's funny how things work out.
The way you were going on about guilds and guild masters and everything like that just really makes me want to play an RPG.
Like Skyrim or something.
Yeah. I don't think I can ever go back and play Skyrim though.
You put too much of your soul into it.
And it just seems blocky now.
What, graphics?
Just gameplay.
Okay.
Oh, I wouldn't say blocky, it just seems a bit slow and outdated.
Not to keep banging on about Zelda. I think that really demonstrates the power of art direction in a media production. It's made in a way that isn't about the power of the console and trying to look real at the time, because technology will advance us. It's about trying to distinguish itself from reality, and those types of productions stand the test of time much better.
Indeed. Longevity is key. Huge replay value, no matter kind of when you play it, it looks the same. Again, doesn't look outdated.
Just looks, it is what it is. It's its own thing. Doesn't need to be compared to CGI effects of the day.
Nope. Although one thing I would really, really want games to stop doing is being Souls-like. Souls-like games can fuck off. I don't have time for that anymore.
Oh, I don't really have time for games other than Zelda anymore.
Exactly.
I don't have time for Zelda. I'm trying to make it. Have you ever stopped to think about in Zelda? You're a kid in most of them, about 10 years old, give or take. Sort of outside of the most recent ones.
The amount of death, violence, and gambling
Or
that
not
you do.
gambling, yeah. You go into towns and people are just selling you anything. They're selling you all sorts of elixirs. They don't give a shit.
I mean, is
You're
that
basically high for half your game as Zelda.
You're gambling with your life, but I suppose there's only a few moments where you gamble with
You're
money.
necking random elixirs that make you not feel the cold or not feel the warm. Give you magic powers. You're eating mushrooms.
Isn't that only in the most recent ones?
Which part specifically?
The elixirs to keep you warm.
Well, there was magic in many of them. You used to go to see the potion lady in Link to the Past.
Magic, but not.
You could fire shit out of your wand back in the day, let me tell you. Shit was wild. Wild. Amongst all the hustle and bustle, one lady who has been suggested by 4 of the 6 main sources of this case to be Frau, which means Mrs. Frau Troffea, for some unknown reason, found herself taken and just had to bust a move. You know how it is in a nightclub. You get there early and nobody's on the floor. One sultry, usually female, let's be honest, hits the floor, and before you know it, 16 dribbling teenagers are all trying to grind up and down her, but the lady just wants to dance around her bag. Well, it was like that, only there were no teenagers. The market town locals weren't teenagers, so they gave the odd disapproving look towards Frau and went about their day.
Miserable bastard.
Frau was pulling out all the moves, absolutely slamming it. She started with a moonwalk into the streets, moved on to the robot, pivot turned, jazz square, she two-stepped, she did the twist. Frau's electric sliding into the Vogue. She showed you how to Dougie. It's not unusual because she busted out the Colton. Frau wasn't looking for no dribbly creep. She was just absolutely popping and locking. Where's it fun to stay at? That's right, the YMCA.
No.
Time is...
No. Go back and say that properly.
Where's it fun to stay at? The
Don't just say it. You've got to sing that line. You've got to sing that.
Time is flying.
No. Go back.
YMCA.
There you go.
Cutting that. Time is flying by like she's in the time warp. And she was. Was that a running man? No, it was a running Frau. Even though she's got a ring on it, Frau was busting out the single ladies. She was flossing. Is your foot tight? Nope. That's a foot loose. Frau did the Macarena. The Thriller dance was busted out. She dropped her stance and Frau busted out the Gangnam Style. Soldier Frau done cranked that shit. The market town watched Frau whip. They watched Frau nay-nay. Frau busted out the cha-cha slide. The locals continued to look on occasionally whilst going about their business. Come the end of the day, well, more likely late night, the traders packed up the market and shook their heads as Frau continued grooving. Everyone left and all became quiet for the night.
That was good. That was very good. Oh, so many different styles in there.
Frau had the moves.
Watched her whip. Nay. Oh. Was she just dancing to the music of the town?
The hustle and bustle of the town, basically. I don't believe that there was music here.
Okay, I can identify with Frau a bit here.
You just want to pop it and lock it in the middle of the town square.
So I can be at work and I'll be taking someone through exercises, training, etc. And there'll be moments where all I hear is the running on the treadmill.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be over, like, just on the cables, going through someone's form, watching them do the exercise, and all I can hear is someone's feet hitting the treadmill. And I will start tapping my foot to the sound of the treadmill.
I have a similar problem to you, but it's worse than yours. I will start thrusting. My hips feel the groove, son. They've got to go.
You sexual deviant.
As I continue here, I'm just going to add that I'm calling the lady Frau because we don't know for definite that it was Frau Troffea, so Frau is suitably ambiguous. The next day, as the earliest of traders crossed over Hyrule Drawbridge, they heard steps. 2 steps to be precise. Frau was still absolutely popping off. Surely she hasn't been at it all night, they wondered. Frau was relentless. If you slide to the left, there's always an opportunity to slide to the right, and Frau did every single time, even with her bloody and blistered feet. Imagine those things. They were absolutely skanky by this point. Eventually, though, Frau collapsed from exhaustion.
Damn. So did she come back in the morning to dance, or was she still in this same spot just dancing all night?
In the same spot. We can't be sure whether she stopped, but it's possible that she danced all through the night. Now, me and you have had a few nights out in our time.
We have indeed.
We've been out from the afternoon or the early evening into the next morning, 5 or 6 in the morning. Imagine if we were still out dancing by like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock the next morning, and so on and so forth, just never stopped.
My feet would be destroyed.
I mean, yeah, your feet are getting bad by 3 a.m, aren't they?
So has she taken
them.
an elixir that has stopped all pain so that she can dance to her heart's content?
That is a good question.
And also a stamina elixir, because if she's danced all through the night and has only just collapsed through exhaustion, her stamina levels are high.
Elixirs were just a thing in olden times. I think we've established that by now.
She must have had a jug of elixir.
Like on a 1500s market, you'd go into the market and you could get a sword, a shield, stamina elixir. Just the way it was.
I think that's exactly what she's done here.
We will get into theories later, but it's definitely feasible. When Frau came to, as her husband looked on in horror, Frau staggered to her feet with a hop. 1 hop this time! Dum! Then 2 hops this time! Dum, dum! That's right, Frau was straight back shaking that booty. Most of the locals looked on, stunned. Frau's feet were blistering and she was pongy by this point, but she just couldn't stop. I say most locals looked on because something strange happened. Finally, it was like those first moments in a sweaty nightclub once the doors open. Some other people begun joining. At first 1 or 2, but within a couple of days, yes, this was still going on after another night.
What?
There were several dancers. Within a week, more than 30 people were all energetically and erratically busting a move. Every now and then, somebody would drop from exhaustion, a stroke or a heart attack, but the rest of the group would just keep on grooving over their collapsed bodies.
What the hell?
Yeah, that kind of went from 60 to 120 in a second there.
Absolutely. Speaking of the nightclub scene as well.
Yes.
Did you know that was my job at one point? To be the first person on the dance floor.
Your job? No. When was this?
Me and a certain person got paid in alcohol to...
Does that count as a job?
Yeah.
Is that legally binding with a contract?
That's not legally binding with a contract, but you walk in, first one on the dance floor, couple of free drinks, enjoy the rest of your night. I say a couple of free drinks, quite a few free drinks.
That's pretty good regardless.
So literally, you just had to go on, get a few people on the dance floor, done.
Drinks for the night, boom.
You're only like 19 at the time.
I'm not sure that's what Frau was up to here.
That's exactly what Frau was up to.
Because
She was elixir
collapsing,
testing.
feet bloody and blistered, absolutely horrific, getting up and getting back on it.
So, I have another question to ask.
Yep.
You said that her husband was mortified when she popped back up.
And kept on going, yeah.
Did her husband not think to look for her during the night?
Well, maybe he did and he couldn't stop her. It was hammer time, son.
Every time he tried to pick her up, she just beat him to the beat.
Imagine if you're trying to restrain someone and they just keep on popping and locking, dancing away.
That must...
At some point, you're probably going to give up. 'Cause you've got them there and their arm just pops out and starts going robot style. Yeah, God damn.
That must be what a silent disco looks like, though, back then. Because no one's dancing to music. They're just
Silent discos
dancing.
are funny things. I've been to one before when I was at university, and they're silent whilst you've... Well, they're not silent because you've got headphones on. Everyone's listening to the same song. If you take the headphones off, you can hear loads of people singing to the song. It's really weird. Yeah. But it's also not the most social of event because you've got headphones on, so you're not really talking to anyone.
But what if you're not there to talk? You're there to dance.
You're there to bust your moves.
With you and your hip thrusting.
Yeah.
You know what you were there for. Greybeard has included a picture here, which I'm assuming
From a contemporary source, yep.
is people trying to carry away... Either trying to carry away these people that are still dancing...
Trying to stop the dancing.
Or they're dead. Because...
Oh, they're not dead, no.
That first woman, her neck is...
Okay,
she's
she
like
might
an owl.
She might be in the process of dying there, actually. I take that back. That neck is twisted.
She's looking completely...
Although-
like her whole body's forwards and she's looking back at him.
To be fair, Rodney behind her, his shoulder is definitely dislocated.
100%. That's... Ugh.
There's a new layer to this image as I look at it more and more. I've just seen the person collapsed in the distant background.
By the tree.
Yeah.
Exhaustion.
Yeah.
Trying to look for the troll under the bridge.
But it can't be stopped.
What is going on here?
Things had clearly started getting out of control. What do you do to stop the dancing? City authorities and religious leaders in the area wondered exactly that and came up with a solution. More dancing. The city cleared an open grain market and built guild halls for the dancers. They created a stage and the officials brought in musicians. They also brought in professional dancers to really start the party and help the afflicted to get it out of their system. Town officials escorted the dancers as well as they could towards these new guild halls. The belief was exactly as I alluded to, in that if they danced hard enough, people would shake it off. Shake it off. This got even more bizarre for the town, even employed strong men. Big burly bastards who were there to literally hold the dancers up as they tired so that they'd keep on popping. That's right. The city wouldn't allow you to collapse. Did this help? No. It's said that the condition spread and up to 400 people were afflicted by the dancing plague. By mid-August, the dancing mania was still going strong.
This is absolutely mental.
And 100% true, by the way.
So in creating the stage and bringing more dancers,
Yeah.
how much were they charging people outside the city to come and watch?
They weren't. They were just trying to solve it. Like, you got to think, towns and cities weren't huge at this point. If you've got 400 people who can't stop dancing, that's affecting the whole livelihood of the town. Like, places aren't selling, places are closed, people aren't breeding to keep the town going.
What does creating a stage do?
Well, they thought that it would discourage it. What they actually did was gave them a platform. But I love the concept that they gave a stage and they had to physically take the people to the stage because they were just too busy dancing where they were.
Usher them over. This is mind blowing. So, how long was the average time that someone was dancing for?
Until they dropped.
Damn.
We're I'm going to get into this in the next section, I believe, but we're talking months rather than weeks.
It's just. Do you think it would have been better? This is going to sound inhumane.
To cut their feet off?
No.
Not that
mine's going to sound way better than yours now. Cheers for that. To create beds and just strap them to the bed.
And let them
wriggle or whatever they would do.
I think they did try to restrain people and like hold them down and whatnot, and as soon as they let go, they were just going again.
Yeah, but that's why they're kind of just tied to the bed.
They're still trying to dance when they're restrained. Fine. What does it solve? They're still doing it.
Yeah, but
just gets them on the floor where they could do some real damage to their knees.
How is putting them on the bed?
Moon crawling.
If anything, it's saving them falling over from exhaustion and cracking their heads open. If they're exhausted, they're already in bed.
Yeah. Well, the town didn't do that.
Did they cut anyone's head open and examine the brain to see what they could find?
No, and this was the 1500s.
What other tests did they do? Because they do some stupid shit back then, so...
It was 1518.
Did they try and break legs to see if that would still happen? Did they see if anyone felt pain?
The Mibs have just contacted you to tell you to stop asking questions.
Was it you or me?
It couldn't have been me because mine's on silent and always has been.
Nothing popped up on mine.
Like I said, the Mibs are just giving you a little nudge to stop asking questions.
And on that note, I will still continue to ask questions. Is that the only test they done? Or test? Is that the only thing they done? Is built on the stage? Or are we about to get into that?
The town actually came up with another solution. It was time to ban dance.
What? Sorry, you can't stop. That's like saying I ban breathing. It's not going to happen. These people are going to dance. They're going to moonwalk all over your face if you're not careful.
So would outlawing the boogie work? In a word, nope. People were out of it, grooving and paid no attention. By September, though, there were signs that the dancing was finally starting to subside. Those that remained were taken away to a shrine on top of the nearby hill, the shrine of Saint Vitus, patron saint of epilepsy and dancing. Historian John Waller has written several journal articles and a book citing most of the sources we know of today and documented this. Were the townspeople paying the price for not paying their respects to Saint Vitus, who was known to punish people with dancing fever? The afflicted were given red shoes and little crosses, and people were paid to dance with them until the afflicted finally dropped in exhaustion, hopefully breaking the plague. Some still danced themselves to death, but eventually, before the end of September, the mania came to an end.
Okay. Patron saint of epilepsy and dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's a patron saint of wanking and fishing? Like, are they just...
Pick up two random unrelated things.
Just two patron saint of dancing.
Do you know what,
and epilepsy, though. Like, how did they even know what epilepsy was back in the 1500s?
People were having seizures.
Can you just claim yourself to be a patron saint? I'm a patron
not
saint
exactly. You had to. Did you have to be known to have performed a miracle of some description?
Right.
There's like a set criteria. I forget what it is.
We need to look it up because, if possible, I'm coming in next episode as a patron saint.
Patron saint moonwalker. The patron saint of fishing and masturbation.
I hate fishing, so you can take fishing out.
July to September. That's a pretty lengthy dancing plague.
It is.
This outbreak is actually really, really well documented for the time. We have cathedral sermons, regional newspaper chronicles, physician notes from Paracelsus in the 1530s, and even Strasbourg City Council notes, all proving that these events took place. This legitimately happened. All sources agree that these events happened after one single lady begun dancing.
Ground zero. Patient zero.
Patient zero. But what we don't know is how many people were ultimately affected and how many people died. Some sources state that about 15 people per day begun dying from the dancing plague at its height. Official Strasbourg city sources, however, didn't definitively confirm if there were many deaths, so it's hard to say for certain. A record in city archives does say that many died, but many is a bit ambiguous. What I'm saying is that this 100% happened, but that we don't know if this affected 50 or 400 people and how severe those effects ultimately were, because many of these records, whilst recorded by people in the city, were recorded a few years after the events and slightly differ in terms of numbers.
So did this only happen this one time?
Well,
in
actually,
this one place?
We're going to go there in a moment. I will confirm that information.
Okay.
Do you remember that episode of Buffy, Once More with Feeling?
Yes, I do. I was thinking about that, but they also sang, so it wasn't just dancing.
Well, who knows how accurate the records were. We know that dancing happened. We don't know. Well, they brought in musicians and whatnot, didn't they? So there would have been singing. Heaven. Heaven.
Oh, I'm going to have to watch that.
I watched it a couple of months ago, so that line hit hard for me there.
Out for a walk, bitch. Such a fucking great show.
Still holds up as well. Like the first couple of seasons, the camera work and whatnot, just it's not HD or 4K obviously, and that doesn't necessarily hold up so well, but the content of the show, phenomenal. But yeah, the reason I suggested that is wondering whether we have a demonic explanation here that some type of demon is causing havoc, made a devil's deal with them.
So,
I mean, this has to be the devil's work, doesn't it?
what I was going to say before that, and why I asked if this was the only account,
Yes.
is were they under the influence of something in terms of something was in the water supply? And she was the first one to...
Lick that water.
Pretty much.
I could have said drink there. I don't know why I said lick.
Or something in the food. Mushrooms.
Yeah.
But I don't think mushrooms would make you dance, but then we don't know.
Well, some might.
Mixed with other things. Like you said, elixirs were pretty normal back then. A concoction of too many different drugs, and that's what you got. Maybe... I suppose if they were having a fit, it wouldn't last that long, so that couldn't be an explanation.
No, and generally with traditional seizures, you would lose your footing rather than busting out Gangnam Style.
So yeah, I mean, it says that people danced, but we don't know if people actually danced or had a fit, and we don't know if the time frame in which this occurred or that people danced is real, or if it's been elaborated on.
So we know it happened between July and September. We know that it affected people. We don't know whether that number was around the 50 mark or around the 400 mark, because the accounts were written 1, 2, 5 years after the fact by people who were there. But obviously, if you're seeing 50 people dancing at the time, that's a lot of people. But then your memory might tell you that's loads of people, and suddenly that 50 turns into 300 or whatever. So just you can never be truly sure in the ages before you could document things with camera work and whatnot.
Also the same with time, in terms of the length of time that they were dancing for. That could have been misinterpreted by some.
As in the whole length of the event, or do you mean as in people were dancing for a few hours rather than for 24 hours?
Absolutely.
Possibly, but like I say, the consistent facts are that people were dancing to the point they were exhausted. They couldn't stop. Even if they wanted to stop, they could not stop, and they were collapsing.
They're infected with something. Some parasite. Some dancing parasite. Watch me make these puppets move.
Like the zombie. like the zombie plague, only with dance. Well, you touched on this, and it turns out that this wasn't the first dancing mania or dancing plague. Kolbig, Saxony, aka Germany, saw an event during Christmas Eve 1021, Common Era, which the town believed was linked to demonic possession or God's judgment. It wasn't quite as severe as Strasbourg, but lots of people still danced uncontrollably, pouring out of their horses and into the streets to link hands in circles and dance uncontrollably without reason. This one was called St. John's Dance and was resolved by tightly tying cloth around the stomachs of the afflicted. Were the events of Strasbourg another episode of St. John's Dance?
I have two questions.
Was one about people coming out of horses?
Yes.
Yeah. What's the other one?
What was St. John a patron saint of?
So, I may explain that momentarily.
Is it like patron saint of cloth and the cha-cha slide?
Yes. What if I told you that he's the patron saint of dancing and epilepsy?
Who was the other one that was a patron saint?
Saint Vitus.
That's it. Are they one and the same, just called something else by different people? Or is one of them taking up the mantle that the other one left behind?
There was an event in Maastricht in the Netherlands where St. John struck on a bridge, and eventually the bridge collapsed under the weight of about 200 dancers. During the 1400s in Apulia, Italy, a lady was bitten by a tarantula spider and soon begun dancing.
She was just hopping around due to the pain.
Scholars accepted that the only way to treat this condition was to shimmy to the right kind of music. Science! Anyhow, as years passed, St. John's Dance would become known as St. Vitus's Dance, with there having been a feast and dance in front of a statue of St. Vitus in Germany on the 15th or the 28th of June, depending which calendar you abide by. St. John, too, was the patron saint of recovering from seizure-like activity. There were numerous dancing events like this throughout history.
Is there still a statue of St. Vitus in Germany?
I've got no idea.
You need to investigate.
Do you want to go and pray to it just in case?
I want to go and dance in front of it and see what happens.
Don't do that. You're tempting fate. You won't be able to stop. Your feet will be blistered.
What I'll do is I'll just secretly start a beat so you start hip thrusting.
Then I won't be. Maybe that's what's happened to me.
And I'll be like, my work is done. I'll leave.
I'll leave beside you, thrusting as I walk.
You won't be able to control yourself. You'll stay there, thrusting the statue.
So we've kind of got the religious heavenly explanation with a saint and the demonic explanation. Which one would you lean towards as being the more likely of the two?
Neither.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you've got to pick one. Do as I say!
Which one do you pick?
Well, of the two, is forcing people to dance until they collapse and potentially die coming from a place of love or a place of evil?
Could be both. So which one do you pick?
Well, I was going to go evil, but then I don't trust the good guys, so I'm going for them.
What, the good guys or demons?
The supposedly good guys, not
I'm
the
going
demons.
the opposite one.
I've changed my mind. I'm going the other way.
Okay, cool. Sweet. I'm switching.
Looking to science, how else can we explain this? One theory is food poisoning. A fungi, which can grow on grains used in making bread, can contain a psychoactive chemical, ergotamine. This can have an effect like dropping acid. It is admittedly unlikely that people with food poisoning could have danced for so long with shit dribbling down their legs, but I suppose you could argue a few could have then inspired others to join and continue in a kind of mass hysteria. Mass psychogenic illness, formerly known as mass hysteria, is another theory. Peculiar behaviour spreading like an epidemic. Whilst Strasbourg was a wealthy market town, that doesn't mean that everyone in it was wealthy. Markets and food attracts less wealthy residents who could have been starved, stressed out and impoverished. There had been crop famines. There also could have been a whole bunch of STDs. With struggle comes superstition. This could also explain why we have seen other similar cases in other areas. Stress-induced psychosis can also generate chorea, which is an involuntary and at times intricate movement disorder and has been linked to other dancing plagues, sometimes known as St. Vitus's dance.
I blame Korea.
Not the country, I'll add. That's a CH, not a K. A theory put forward by American sociologist Robert Bartholomew suggests that the dancers were all members of a religious sect, not unlike the kind of thing Rasputin got up to, whereby they were all dancing together to gain religious favour, possibly of St. Vitus. We mentioned punishment from a saint earlier too. This could have either been for religion or due to not being pious. The theory at the time, which remember was a very long time ago, was overheated blood. Basically, the body was believed to crank it automatically when blood got hot and expanded into the laughing veins. St. John's dance struck in July on this occasion, remember. To heal hot blood, one basically had to dance and flail until the blood settled down. That one is somewhat outdated today, obviously. Far less likely than angry saints and demons.
I have a question.
Yes?
Are the laughing veins located near the funny bone?
Should have saved that for the end of the episode. The laughing veins run through your body. Well, they do mine. You've got the angry veins.
No, I don't.
It's an angry response.
So we have Korea.
We have Korea.
The CH, not the K.
Yeah, and we have the food. So you kind of got near this with your mushroom suggestion earlier.
Yeah, mine was more like a hallucinogen, but it's going to have that same, I wouldn't say the same kind of effect, but if food does have a...
Well, yeah, you've got to think fungi can be tiny, tiny, tiny little spores that are everywhere. So you were very, very close with mushrooms, obviously.
But like you said, if it was...
They're growing on everything rather than being poisoned specifically. It's something that's happening to the whole town.
If it is within
anyone
the
who's
grain,
eating that bread.
Yeah, that could be a certain batch that went out. And obviously people are going to have that at different times. Same with mead or anything like that.
Everyone who's been to Jimmy's stall is popping and locking, and Jimmy's like, nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. Jimmy knew.
Yeah, we don't know where patient zero, like where they...
No, they just started dancing.
Came from, like, did they go to this stall, that stall, come from...
We don't know.
Were they a baker, baker's wife?
Well, they were a wife, we know that.
That's true.
That's a wrap for the case. So, in summary... We visited the Holy Roman Empire of 1518, whereby in Strasbourg during July, a lady alleged to be Frau Troffea begun dancing. Frau didn't just dance, she absolutely cha-cha slided it all day and all night. Eventually, Frau fainted, but when Frau came to, she was straight back Gangnam styling, much to the horror of her husband. After a couple of days, several others had joined the dancing. By the end of the week, there were more than 30 dancing like it was Saturday night.
At the movies.
I was thinking more along the lines of Fever, but every now and then someone would collapse, but the dancing continued for weeks without any sign of slowing down. This market was just popping off. After a while, although things weren't subsiding, government and religious officials believed that people would dance the jives out eventually, and so to try and stop the dancing, they built Guildhall and stages for the dancers and brought in live music. Strongmen were even employed to hold up the exhausted so that they could dance it out of their systems. Dancing continued, affecting between 50 and 400 people, with some accounts suggesting at times 15 people died in a day. Some dancers were taken to the shrine of St. Vitus, and eventually, before the end of September, the dancing came to an end. There are many official documents evidencing that this did happen, and John Waller has honourably documented a lot of this, putting forward theories. Was this a case of disrespecting St. Vitus or St. John? Hot blood? Demonic possession? Fungi-related food poisoning resulting in hallucination? Religious sects? Or mass hysteria? There have been several other dancing plagues through history, so it could well be that there's a little moonwalk-obsessed demon out there. Do you have anything you'd like to go over once more with probing before we conclude, Granville?
Didn't really touch much upon religious sects.
Well, we said kind of like Rasputin, where they were trying to
Yeah,
gain...
but I mean, I didn't really question.
Oh, you
that
didn't? No,
too
no.
much. Could this have been someone high up within the cathedral prompting these people to do that, saying that if they did it, they would earn a place amongst the angels or God when they pass or anything like that? But to do that, they can't tell anyone.
Unlikely to have been the cathedral, because religious things in the main religions were documented, but it could have been an offshoot sect, as we sort of touched upon, whereby those sorts of events were held in people's houses or smaller places where the mainstream eyes didn't get on them, where they could all whip themselves and bang each other or pop and lock it and whatnot without the public getting outraged. Possible there was some sort of cult leader demanding that people do this.
That's a good one.
Is that where you're leaning then?
It's not, but it's one of two. So I'm still unsure.
Wow, it's time to make your decision, sir. Are you saying that it was aliens? Are you saying that it was demons? Are you saying that it was fungi? Are you saying that it was curses?
It's either...
We didn't even think of curses, did we? The town could have been placed under a curse.
It's either fungus or religious sect. Unfortunately, we don't know the types of people that were involved in the dance or anyone's kind of background, so we don't know if they were being punished or if that was their way of getting out of punishment.
Too long ago.
So
you're
I'm gonna have to go with fungi.
So you're saying it's normal rather than para?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying that it was any of those things, but it was fungi. Yeah, that feels like the most accurate one for me.
Definitely wasn't fungi for them.
Yeah, it's just been one of those absolutely mental but really enjoyable cases overall. For whatever reason, these people felt the rhythm. I think realistically this one was probably a combination of a few of the explanations. stress and hysteria brought on by the difficult times, a bit of mania. Some people probably just joined in. There was probably a religious sect, and the government probably made it worse rather than helping it to subside. And there was definitely an angry little demon John making everyone dance until the Slayer got them. So I'm not saying that it was paranormal, but it was demons. Of course, I'm being deadly serious. It was demons. It was absolutely demons. No, but it is interesting how this keeps on happening throughout history. It's not just a one-off. There has been several dancing plagues, so something's got to be going on.
There's a lot of mushrooms around in the world.
Yeah.
A lot of bread.
So, yeah, the fungi thing, that it feels believable, but I wonder whether, like I said, it was the fungi combined with mass hysteria. So once you had 5 or 6 people doing the shuffles on mushrooms, in essence, then other people started joining in and it just took over and everyone thought they were affected.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that I've got it too, thrusting away, when actually only a few of them have got it for that reason. The rest have just been caught up and it becomes a psychological thing where everyone's impacted by it.
Do you reckon a lot of people tried to do it just to get out of like work? I don't really want to do this tonight. Don't really want to go there. Do you know what? I'm just going to go join the dancers. Just say I've got it. Just spend a couple of hours there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People be lazy. So do you have any final thoughts before we close?
That was my final thought.
Well, that is a wrap for today then. Thank you for listening to...
Oh, hold on. Sorry.
Without something, you've had your final thought. Shut up! No, go on. Bartholomew! Was that really it?
Yeah.
You son of a gun. Thank you for listening to... But it was aliens. Today was a non-alien case, and we have a whole heap more of those over at patreon.com/butitwasaliens, where if you want to support the show, you can donate about the cost of a medium coffee, and in exchange, reward or punishment, you get access to the monthly side probes. Each month, we probe a paranormal case, such as demonic possession or hypnotic dog. Do you know what? Roll them back a second. Could it have been aliens? I'm just thinking of South Park, because clearly that's real. Do you remember the alien gun that made people dance? Change my mind, it's aliens. Anywho.
They gave that weapon to the... It was a ray, though, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Gave that to the cows.
Yeah. Good memory, sir. Anywho.
Season 1.
Indeed, indeed. If you have
episode
any suggestions, either for the Patreon or the main show, you can share these with us on the Twitter at @ButItWasAliens. If, however, you kind of just want to hang out, linger around a bit, there is a great place to linger where all lingerers are welcome, called Facebook. If you linger towards the But It Was Aliens page, you can linger into the connected privately public group called Extraterrestrial Towers. There, we kind of all just linger over each other. That's it for today's show, so until next time. If you fart in a latex sex suit, does it blow up like a balloon? The truth is up there. #.